Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis. Join one of the Adelaide 36ers' favourite sons as we deep dive into everything past and present about one of the most storied franchises in the NBL. It's Sixers Fix, your Adelaide 36ers podcast.
Hello and welcome to Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis. We're 2 games into the NBL season for the Adelaide 36ers. We didn't quite get the results we were after, but it's a short turnaround. Thursday night back in Tasmania, so let's hope that things turn around there. So plenty to talk about on the show this week, and of course we'll have all of our awards thanks to our sponsors. But let's get straight into it. I'm Chris Pike, and the man that you want to hear his opinions of very quickly, the only man involved in every Adelaide 36ers championship, Scott Ninnis. How do you find you this week?
Very deflated, Chris. It was, we
Deja vu, isn't it? It feels like last season all over again very quickly.
Well, I'm going swimmingly. I predicted this to be 2-0 by now, and I just got the order around the wrong way, unfortunately. But, it is disappointing. I guess, once again, the beauty of this league is you do get that really quick chance to turn things around. And Thursday night against the Jack Jumpers in Tassie and then back here on Sunday, it gives us an opportunity to hopefully square the ledger fairly quickly.
Yeah, let's hope so. So we've got a big show planned. We'll hear from CJ Bruton last week, where we turn him over to you on our Ask the Coach segment thanks to Sports Card World. One of our listeners will win a very special Upper Deck Space Jam prize pack. So we are delighted that we got so many questions for CJ. So we'll have that segment for you later on. We'll have our Player of the Year segment where we get some votes from you, Scott, from those first 2 games. Of course, we've got another Australian Motors Mitsubishi prize pack to give away this season. So we'll let our listeners decide our Player of the Week as well. Thanks to All Star Photos for helping make this show possible as well, and of course, Premium Wine Tours. Now, let's have a look at those results, Scott, from round 1. It started Friday night in Perth with the Wildcats beating the 36ers 85-73, and then backing up on Sunday at the Entertainment Centre, the Illawarra Hawks 81 beat the 36ers 71. Before we go into both of those games in a bit more detail, how disappointing were you feeling Sunday night to be 0-2 after such a promising lead up to the season?
Oh, very much so. I think, you probably got to keep it in context. We're playing against, Perth in Perth and then Illawarra at home, who, a lot of pundits certainly expect to be there at the business end of the season. But it was probably more the way we went about it in that game versus Illawarra. I felt the scoreline probably flattered us a little bit in the end, and we didn't have a lot of winners on the day, and it's just disappointing, I think, when it's your first game at home. It's a new season. There's new people there watching the game, and you just want to see a great hit out and make sure we get all those fans back the week after it, and hopefully for the rest of the season. There's certainly no shame in losing to Perth in Perth, which, as we all know, most teams will do this year. To lose that first game at home and, to come out at half time and, not put our best foot forward was very disappointing. But I know that, once again, there's a quick turnaround. We have the opportunity to correct things very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting with that Friday night game in Perth, it wasn't a terrible performance. I think basically the difference was the Perth Wildcats imports. Vic Law was unstoppable with his 37 points. I think we did a pretty good job on Bryce Cotton. The only problem was they had Vic Law as a second scoring option, and I guess if you compare both teams had 2 imports out there. The 2 for the Wildcats, Law and Cotton, combined for 53 points, and the 2 for Adelaide, unfortunately, Dusty Hanners and Todd Withers combined for 17 points. And it might be too simplistic to say that was the difference, but it definitely had a big impact.
Yeah, look, it did. We know what Bryce Cotton could do. He's the best player in the competition, and Vic Law, he looked like the best player in the competition on Friday night. He was astonishing. And unfortunately, a guy we could have probably thrown, either of those guys in Sunday Dets was not playing, and that was a huge out, which I think I mentioned last week to us, and the same thing against Illawarra. A Tyler Harvey or a Jessup get going, we got the perfect foil for for those sort of players. So Sunday was a huge out. As far as the imports go, look, it was certainly disappointing, but I guess with Todd Withers, we're not expecting him to get 30 points every game. And I would say, when you looked at the teams comparatively, the Wildcats have got a lot of guys who do play their role and know where they fit, and you're going to expect the majority of the shots and points to come from Cotton and Vic Law, whereas, with us, they're probably still settling into who's got what role, and it's probably more of an equal opportunity offense, where we have a good possibility of 6 or 7 guys getting in double figures. But I guess in saying that, I would have liked to seen, certainly in the second game, Daniel Johnson get more of the ball earlier on, especially when you've got such a known commodity that can get you points every week. I'd like to see us look at him a little bit earlier, but and look, Dusty Hannes would want to have a better weekend coming up than he did last weekend. And once again, what I've seen at training from him is completely different to the player I saw in those 2 games. And the game here at home, he looked quite nervous. And to me, that is not a person who is a nervous type of player. He's supremely confident. So I don't know what the reasoning for that is, but hopefully those he can get back on track, and the team can, and we can be sitting here next week with 2 wins and back moving in the right direction.
Well, now's as good a time as any to talk about Dusty a little bit more, because we had all heard so much about how good of a shooter he was coming into the season. On this show a couple of weeks ago, Jamie Perlman said he's the best shooter that he's ever rebounded for in his life in basketball, and he's had 30-plus years involved in top-level basketball. So, I mean, we know how good of a shooter he is, but we talked about this off-air, but bringing it to air, it's a lot different shooting in practice with no pressure to then being able to create your shot and get a shot off during a game. I mean, is it a matter of him just having to work through this? Do the team have to do something, or is it all up to Dusty to figure this out himself?
Oh, no, it's team as well. We need to work out how to get him his best shots. And one of the other things, I didn't think at times we were setting, probably over the 2 games, I didn't think we set great screens. And, Dusty is a guy who, you want to be getting him loose, springing off screens and shoot those. For him not to hit a 3 over 2 games, I can't imagine it's ever happened in his life. And he really wasn't even looking for his 3-point shot in that game versus Illawarra. And I just think, the team knows, when he catches the ball, the expectation is he is going to shoot the ball. And I think for our offense to run effectively, he needs to take those shots. And if he misses, well, at least we're geared up offensive rebounding wise, and I know everyone's got confidence in him to turn it around. And but yeah, it's one of those things. It's a new season. I mean, obviously he's got came in with a lot of hype. Gorgon would have had a plan for him, obviously, and a lot of teams will. But once again, if we're getting our big guys setting the right screens. Someone should be open, and I just encourage Dusty just to shoot the ball with confidence and do what we all know he can do, and he can turn it around pretty quickly.
Interested in your thoughts on Todd Withers, because I think he looked pretty good, to be honest, across the 2 games, but he just didn't have the ball in his hands too often, especially on Friday night. I see him playing a similar role on the Adelaide team to what Vic Law plays on the Perth team, but the difference was Vic Law took 29 shots for Perth and Todd took 4 shots for the 36ers. Do we need to find a way to get him a bit more involved in the offense too?
Oh, yeah, and once again, I think we're finding our way and everyone's finding their roles. Look, Todd's not going to be he won't take 29 shots in a game this year. I reckon DJ's probably the only one that's a chance of doing that, and Dusty if he gets going. But Todd is a spare parts player that he can do everything well. He's a great defender. He can defend a multitude of positions. He's athletic. He's a 40% 3-point shooter. He can get on the rim. He can do a lot of things, and I think he he's a guy that is not just going to come out and try and make his mark offensively. I think he's going to fill the gaps where he can. So I wouldn't be worried too much about him. I think if there's expectations that he's going to average 20 a game, well, I think that's unfounded. I don't think he's that type of player, and I don't think he was brought in to be that type of player. No. But certainly, I guess there was a bit of hesitancy, across the board, and at times it looked like they weren't sure where they should be getting their shots from. And you've got to remember too, there's 8 or 9 new guys in this lineup. The other teams that we've played have stability. They've added players, but they have a core of their team together. In saying that, I don't really want to use that as an excuse because we can't be saying that in 10 games or they're still getting used to each other. But there's a lot of new players in this team. It's a new system. It's a new head coach. Once again, there's talent there. They've just got to work out how best to utilise everything and their talents.
I think the biggest positive out of the 2 games was the form of Cambasto. He looked really, really sharp to me. He looked like he's moving well. He looks healthy, and he looks aggressive offensively. So he had 15 points in both games, had 7 rebounds in the game in Perth, and also had 8 rebounds and 4 assists in the game against Illawarra. I think out of everything, he was the great positive from the weekend.
That was the real shining light. I mean, he's come as advertised, and I don't think there's anyone that doesn't think he can do that. I mean, the question mark's always been, over his body and if he can stay injury-free. I guess that still remains to be seen. But, he was the best player, I thought, here at home against Illawarra, and he wasn't too far off it in Perth. And, if he can give you that sort of output on a daily basis, and we start getting everyone else together, it can be a really dangerous team. So, no, I loved what I've seen for him at training and certainly in these first 2 games. And he just does all the right things. He always seems to be in the right place on the court. He finishes well. He's strong as an ox. And I think he's, once again, and it's probably the asterisk, but if he can stay healthy, it's... he'll be one of the real vital pickups for a team this year in the NBL.
Yep, totally agree. Now, I think this next question probably goes a long way to describing why you're the basketball expert on this show and I'm not, because coming into this season, I thought taking care of the ball would be a great strength of this team, and I thought between Mitch McCarron and Dusty Hanners and Sunday Detch when he's back, and even Tad Duffelmeyer as well, that they would just take such great care of the ball, and the turnover rate of this team would be very low. They had 35 of them in the 2 games on the weekend, so maybe I was reading things a bit wrong, or was it just 2 off games in terms of taking care of the ball?
Well, mate, I guess we'll see whether it was an anomaly or not over there. I'd like to think it was just one of those things where they're, getting used to each other or trying too hard or not quite knowing where people were going to be. Clearly there was way too many turnovers, and that'll be a focus with CJ, this week. I'd like to think with the caliber of people we're talking about that won't continue to be a problem, because if it is, it will be a big problem. But especially in the Illawarra game, it was just at crucial times we just kept turning it over, and there were times we had 3 or 4 in a row that it's just not good enough at this level, and you just got to find a way to take care of the ball, especially if you've already turned the ball over. You've got to make sure that the next time down the floor that you're getting a shot up, and you're getting the ball in the right people's hands, and you're not making those mistakes. Now, a positive turnover where you're trying to do the right thing, get the ball, people can live with that. But when they're careless turnovers and they come in a bunch, then that is a real concern. And they drive coaches crazy. So there'll be no question that'll be addressed. And I'd be surprised, if that isn't a real focus on everything they're talking about this week going into these next 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that coming out of halftime on Sunday, didn't we? Because going into halftime, I think the Hawks had finished the first half on I think it was a 14-5 run, so they worked their way on top. And then they came out and scored the first 13 points of the third quarter as well. And I mean, I think you might have sort of seen some discouraging signs at halftime as well. Did the energy just not quite seem to be there?
Yeah, it wasn't there, and it was. I was sitting next to Mike McVeigh, and we were watching him warm up, and they were just so flat. And look, once again, there are reasons. I mean, Illawarra had been sitting here for 2 days waiting for us, and we got back from Perth at 7 o'clock on Saturday night.
And it was an early start too. Yeah.
And the game was a very early start. It was a 12:30 game, and so the players were at the stadium at about 10:30 in the morning. So. Yeah, but they looked alarmingly flat at half time, and there just didn't seem to be the energy within the group. So once again, there was suggestions that they were fatigued coming back from Perth, and I get all that, and Perth's a long road trip, but everybody has to do that, and it can't be used as an excuse. It can be a reason for coming out and maybe being flat in patches, but you just got to find the energy within the group. And once again, I keep mentioning his name, but a Sunday Detch will help that. I mean, he was really vocal in the pre-season, and if he's a guy and sees any, I guess, lack of energy and that things are a bit flat, I know he's a guy that can sort of get them together and lift things up. But, he wasn't there. I hope he's back on Thursday. But if he's not, they're going to have to find a way just to generate that energy within the group and make sure that, they come out with all guns blazing. Because we all know that this league is an incredibly tough one, and if someone smells weakness from another team, they're going to be in for a long night. And Tasmania are going to be up and about after winning their first game at home. They'll have a good crowd down there, and I expect us to win, but it's not just going to happen when they roll the balls out. We're going to have to be really ready to go.
The most fascinating thing about arriving back in Adelaide, Saturday night, and then having to turn up at the arena Sunday morning, was that the last signing for the 36ers this season was Hiram Harris. So for the last couple of weeks, he's had to do his quarantine and isolation in Adelaide, so he wasn't able to join the team either in Tasmania or in Perth. And because the game was so early on Sunday, obviously the team didn't have a chance to have a shoot-around. The first time he met his new team was when they turned up for the arena to prepare for that game on Sunday. It's a remarkable thing. I mean, could you imagine playing your first game? He didn't hit the floor, but he was suited up to play. Could you imagine playing with a team and you meet them for the first time that same morning?
It's not ideal, is it? And I know they missed out by, it was a fairly short period of time, with the quarantine, about maybe getting him with the team. And look, it's one of those things. I mean, we live in a different world now, and it is what it is. But obviously, we knew he wasn't going to play on Sunday because he, as you said, he hasn't been with the team at all. But they'll have a couple of training sessions and be off to Tassie today. And I still think we can't really expect to see anything from him. I wouldn't expect him to only play minimal minutes over these next couple of games, if at all. But that's a really strange set of circumstances there, where you're meeting your teammates for the first time, 2 hours before you play your first game. It's nuts, isn't it? It's just crazy at the moment.
It absolutely is. Okay, to wrap up this first segment, Scott, let's get on to our voting in our Player of the Year award. Obviously, Daniel Johnson is our reigning champion, and it was a lot of fun speaking to him last week in a more relaxed environment where it wasn't so much an interview. He could sort of join us for the whole show. It was a lot of fun. So I hope you all enjoyed hearing from DJ last week. Now the game in Perth. How does your voting look, Scotty?
Well, look, I think DJ gets off to a flyer again. I thought he was our best player, marginally ahead of Cambasto, who I gave the 2 votes to. And Mitch McCarron rounded it out for me. He 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 7 points. It probably dropped off a little. There were some guys who were okay, but I thought they were probably the three for me in the Perth game.
Perhaps even more challenging to give them from Sunday's game, was it?
Well, we talked about this last year during games, didn't it? When we, it was almost, you almost didn't want to give out some votes because you weren't sure we had three players that were deserving of it. So I thought Cambasto was comfortably our best player in that game. As you said, he had the 15 points in both games, and I thought looked really good. I guess when it comes down to the next couple, it starts getting a little bit tough. I thought probably. Probably Mitch McCarron. I probably think we'll get the 2 votes for me. 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and I'm going to give DJ one vote. I thought Isaac just looked out of sorts a little bit. I mean, he had 13 points and 4 rebounds, had the 3 turnovers, and he's slowly getting back into it. He didn't have a lot on the court with the team in the pre-season through injuries.
He hasn't trained a lot, and he didn't play a lot of the blitz either.
No, correct. So I think that's for me. And once again, I thought DJ probably didn't get enough of the ball in that first 3 quarters.
I just forgot about him, didn't I? Forgot he was there.
Yeah, it seemed to be. And once again, it's sort of watching the game. It did look like they were a new team together, not quite knowing where the shots were coming from. How to get the right people the right shot, as completely opposed to Illawarra. They always seem to know where the ball was going and who was going to get the shots. And once again, there's a familiarity about that with guys that played together last year, which we haven't had. So that will change. I am really disappointed. Be sitting here 0-2, but I'm also realistic enough to know that that this team will be better for the run. The more time they spend together, the better they'll get. And as you said, hopefully they can turn around very quickly.
No, absolutely. Okay, now before we get to CJ Bruton and our Ask the Coach segment, I wanted to just have a quick look at the other results from round 1, Scott, and I'll run through the results. Maybe you can just tell me what stood out to you from the games. It started Friday night. Tasmania Jack Jumpers beat the Brisbane Bullets to open their life in the NBL in overtime, 83-74. And then on Saturday, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix beat us very, very short-handed and probably disappointing. New Zealand Breakers 89-65, and then the triple header on Sunday obviously started with our game against the Hawks, but then the Sydney Kings beat another team that was short-handed, Melbourne United 79-74, and then things finished off back in Perth with the Wildcats beating the Taipans 90-67. We don't have to talk about each game, but what really stood out to you from some of those games in round 1, Scott?
Oh, look, I loved seeing the Jack Jumpers win that first game. I thought that's a great thing. First home game, the emotion that would have created, and then Jack McVeigh would have loved hitting that 3 at the end of the game. Yep. So I thought that was really exciting to see. Brisbane were disappointing. Once again, it's just tough with the emotion coming into that game. But
how big a part in overtime did it have when Nathan Sobey got ejected? I mean, the game just turned after that moment.
Well, it did. It was funny. He had that 3 to put it into overtime, and we were watching the game and having with a couple of friends and having that normal coach debate. Do you foul and put them to the line and not let them? Which I'm certainly a fan of, not because very rarely when you put a team to the line, do they win in that situation, but how many times you see someone hit that three to tie it up. It
Yep.
happens all the time. So, and like I thought technically it probably was the right call. I know there's been a lot of conjecture about it, and obviously his reaction didn't help things, but it sort of looked.
Did he deserve an ejection though? I mean, the call in the first place was the wrong call, wasn't it?
Well, it sort of. I guess it probably. I don't know. It sort of looked. If you're a referee looking at that, the way the arm sort of came up, maybe that. And they can only call what they see at the time. But look, I thought Tassie were sort of getting on top of them at that stage anyway. But so it is what it is. It's just nothing you can do about it now. But I thought that was probably the highlight for me. The Phoenix New Zealand game was hard to watch. I had it on for the second half, but I wasn't focusing on it all that much. And I think, New Zealand, once again are going to be on the road, and now they're battling sort of, COVID with the team and coach and all that sort of stuff as well. So I think it's, unfortunately, unless things turn around fairly quickly, they could be in for another long haul like last year. But certainly seriously undermanned in that game. No one's surprised about Perth beating Cairns over there, and probably no real surprise with Sydney being Melbourne. I know a lot of people have got Sydney pegged as title favourites, are very close to it. So probably not a lot of surprises throughout the course of the weekend. And once again, people are finding their feet at the moment, and it's great. I'm just really happy that the season's underway. At the moment there's not too many hiccups happening, but we know, as we've seen over the last year and a half, that can all change fairly quickly. But hopefully things settles down and we get hopefully an interrupted season of NBL basketball.
Yep, let's hope so. Okay, so that's round one in the books. Let's take a deep breath. We'll let CJ Bruton take over with our questions from the fans, and then we'll come back, Scott, and we'll take a look at round two and hopefully predict two wins for the 36ers. Okay, delighted to be joined by CJ Bruton for our first Ask the Coach segment here this season on Sixers Fix, brought to you, of course, by Sports Card World. CJ, before I hand you over to our fans and listeners, how are you feeling 2 games into your NBL coaching career? How have you sort of summed up that opening round?
Well, it wasn't the side that anyone wants to have, but I guess with how we've been going about our business and trying to pick it up, and I knew there was a lot of tired bodies once we touched down in the Perth, looking at our crew, trying to find the best way to get ourselves up for what was the start of the season. And I thought that I think we competed, we battled, turned the ball over quite a bit. You can tell that the fatigue kicked in, but there was a lot of things to like, as it was throughout the pre-season as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, just one more from me. Before I get the listeners to ask their questions, I mean, when you were thinking about making your NBL coaching debut, could have you thought about better things to be greeted than having to front up to Sean Reddich's face when you're trying to make your coaching debut?
Well, I was saying to one of my family members, it was my brother's birthday. He's born on the 3rd of December. I used to wear number 41 when I played for the Wildcats. Mm-hmm. He turned 41. Coaching against the Wildcats, which is where my father won his first championship. Yep. And we moved when I was in 1987. We moved out west. And obviously it was ironic just to be coaching them, and then Sean Redditch commentating, and then playing against him for a number of years. And a lot of things have changed, but no. For me, it's a special moment, I guess, anytime you get to coach in the NBL. And
it was also where you played your last game and won that championship.
Yes,
Yep.
in that arena, yeah. So, no, there was a lot of positive take from it, and no, it was an exciting time. Sure.
Okay, now I'm going to hand you over to our 36ers fans, and I'm sure you've learned already that they are very passionate and they like to see their team win. So they like to get to the point in some of their questions, but we'll keep things positive here on the show, CJ. And first up, we've got Kyle Wood. He's asked, how have you adjusted to the head coach role, and did you find it different not being involved in the selection of the team and having the cards dealt for you?
I mean, how do I feel coaching?
How have you adjusted to being the head coach and then I guess taking over a team that you didn't get to select yourself?
Yeah, well, definitely it's different. I guess normally a process takes its time. I guess with the change of Connor coming in, there was what time was left, and unfortunately I had to have surgery in the off season, so I didn't get to spend as much time. But for me, that's also looking at it like an excuse. Because coaches that had to come in later, but you have to do stuff by Zoom and different things, and everyone has a role to play in an organisation, and to keep things moving forward. So unfortunately I wasn't here when I got here earlier to be able to put stuff in, but trying to put a system in that complements everyone on this roster, and trying to teach them on the fly when they've all learned different ways, and understanding that it takes time, which I know. I've played a long time. So as for not picking the roster, that's just part of the process of getting in so late, and not having a hand on it. But in saying that, I like the group. I like what's been put in front, and for you to build.
Now, I'm sure you're not surprised that we got some questions about Kai Sotto. The first one comes from the Foss, and he's asked, what role can you see Kai playing this season in a team stacked with bigs?
Definitely have the role that he had was at the start, I guess, was, can he get on the court? Will he help us? I think everyone was in that mold for myself. I was like, I see the kid playing, 15 or 20 minutes. Very, very handy, very helpful to play a number of positions in the competition. And once I saw him on the floor with the group, because I knew what he was capable of doing, he definitely ticked the boxes and was on the curve of being able to do that straight away. And trying to set back to those first half throughout the season. And unfortunately, he's not on the floor for us right now, but definitely have him sense of him to contribute a lot more than people think this upcoming season.
Now, Roy Tony 25 is a bit of a conspiracy theorist, so I'm not going to put his question to you, but he's basically kind of hinting at Kai Sotto not really being injured, not really being ready for the league. You pretty much answered it just there, that he is ready. Once he's healthy, he'll be able to play a role on the team.
He is more than ready to contribute to this league, to this team. And when he does, and people start asking me questions, I'll be saying, well, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
What he's capable of doing. And I'm pretty sure that people will love, not only Adelaide fans, the NBL and the Filipinos will love what he's capable of doing when he gets in with this roster.
And we did see a glimpse of that in the first game played at the Blitz, so I think he's definitely going to be able to have an impact. Now, the Fresh Prince of Lincoln is asked, other than winning games and a championship, what are your goals as a coach for this season?
The goal is keep improving each player. I think we got different. Everyone's got individual goals, and as a team, we've got to keep improving every player, helping not only get stronger and understand how they fit into their role, and continue to help them develop as people and humans. So I think if the players continue throughout the year, and by the end of the year, that helps us to playoffs and elimination finals, and they've done a great job in working with them and their families.
Yeah, no,
make that happen come true.
Yeah, absolutely. And following on from that, Peo Tommy has asked, which youngsters are you excited about developing the most and giving some game time to?
Well, I think there's not one in particular. I think when the 12th of the selected, they all had skill set that were capable of contributing to this roster and building for the future. And I think for most teams, our DPs that we have on our roster, we hopefully one day to take a roster spot. Sometimes,
well, especially Nick and Zach, they've both shown they can play in the NBL already, haven't they?
Yeah, I think showing that in the pre-season and allow for them to get their feet wet, and feel comfortable where they're at. They're definitely showing that they can contribute and look forward to their progress throughout the season.
Okay, Ashley Burrell has asked, what did you learn from your 6 championship teams that you played on that you can bring to this team to make them champions? I'm not sure there's a simple answer to that.
Well, mostly you enjoy your journey. Like you go in every day with the mindset to continue to work. Every session, no matter you win or lose a game, every practice session, every chance you get to get on the floor to make a mark within the group to show that you're ready to go and contribute to the group. And enjoying the journey. Like if you're on the road for 2 weeks and it is what it is, you enjoy each other's families, and you get back instead of looking around, because every year the team changes. It's never the same in all 3 championships, and every championship I was a part of never had the same roster. But we learned how to work together and develop a relationship and contribution to help each other get better.
Now, Blake Hand has asked, excluding Andre Lamanis, who have been the biggest influences on your coaching philosophy?
I have to say it would have to be my father.
Yeah, I thought it would have to be your dad, first of all.
Yeah, he's had I guess been around, been able to watch video with him as a young kid, and understanding of the game and throughout my journey as a player to tap into that and take some of those teachings along the way throughout everything I've been on and keep adding to it along the way and all the coaches that I've been a part of.
Following on from that, I like this question from Mill Jack Steed. Do you have any coaches from outside the basketball community that you look up to or take inspiration from? Or I might even expand that to outside of Australian basketball, potentially sort of NBA or college coaches?
There's a lot of coaches, I guess, overseas that I've had and contributed with. Actually, one Matt Stolovich, who's not even in the NBA. He was actually an under-16 coach, and just a well-prepared and understanding of who each player is and how to get the mindset that he had and the delivery that he had for the group to be able to compete. And I picked to win the state championships where we got to the finals, and even though we lost to Victoria by a point, and it was one of the junior experiences that I hold dear to my heart, not only the team, even though we weren't successful at winning, just on how we went about our work, the way he taught us, the way he held us accountable as a junior, which developed throughout my career along the way.
No, fantastic. Last one that I'll put to you. Now, your answer to this might very much depend if you know this person. It comes from James Kuhlman. I hope I've pronounced his name right. So I don't know if you know him or not, but he's asked, would you beat me in a one-on-one game? One-on-one pickup game?
Oh, well, not knowing who you are. Very confident in my ability. And
how are you moving right now? Are you moving okay?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. I might look like I waddle. And I might waddle, but
I'm all meant because of your knee surgery.
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay, good.
I'm able to get the job done, so I back myself. I like to say that I've got him covered.
I think it's hard to imagine you not being able to beat James. Sorry to say, James. Okay. Did any of those stand out to you, CJ, to win our first prize here this season? And it's a nice prize. The winner will receive thanks to Sports Card World, an Upper Deck booster pack from the new Legacy Space Jam movie, valued at $79. Which question did you like the best?
I think the question was about your coaching philosophy. From overseas, I think it's something that, again, that every coach has got one and they've all got experiences behind it, and I think that was a great question to ask.
Yeah, fantastic. Blake Hand, there you go. Blake, we'll get you your prize, and thanks to Sports Card World for that. CJ, before I let you go, you're in Hobart now preparing for tomorrow night.
Yep.
How much are you looking forward to the game tomorrow night and getting back out there?
Super excited. I think the boys have been well rested. We've got to go home for a couple of days. We had a good practice yesterday. Everyone's arrived here healthy and ready to get on the floor.
We're looking forward to it. No, we're looking forward to it. Thanks very much for joining us, CJ, and we look forward to doing more of it throughout the season.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks to CJ Bruton for joining us on that Ask the Coach segment. Congratulations to Blake for winning our first prize thanks to Sports Card World. Now, let's keep moving, Scott, because we've got two big games to prepare for now in round 2 of the NBL, and the 36ers open this round Thursday night in Tasmania. It's familiar territory for them because they just spent 3 weeks down there, so that'll certainly hold no fears for them. We're hoping that Sunday Detch certainly will be back. I'm not sure that Kai Sotto or Mani Malu will be available, but hopefully Sunday is back. Before we talk about the game, how's Jack McVeigh going to go up against his old team?
Well, he's going to be keyed up for it. That's for sure. So, he can score in a number of ways from a multitude of positions, as we know. So he's going to be fired up to do well against his old team, as most people are. And
I actually spoke to him this morning. He's very excited, and he even said he's got some tricks up his sleeve if he has to guard DJ. He's just concerned that DJ might have more tricks than he's got.
Yeah, I think if that matchup happens on a regular basis, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. And with no offence to Jack, but that one certainly works well in our favour. And look, this is not going to be a walk in the park. I mean, they're going to be confident. They've got their first win underway. They're going to have a good crowd there. But once again, I feel that on paper this is a game that we should win. And make the necessary adjustments. As we said, let's fingers crossed that Sunday's going to be playing. I spoke to Manny on Sunday, and he was confident that he was going to be okay to resume training and playing.
No, good, because he looked really good in the couple of games he did play at the Blitz.
He did. I like what I've seen of him. Yeah. He's a really good size. He's an athlete. He can shoot the ball. I think he can be an important part of the puzzle moving forward. I think Kai's still a ways away, which is a bit of a concern because all the work that he did in the pre-season now is and I know they'll have him doing fitness stuff and that anyway, but it's as we know, it's very different to actually being on the court. So hopefully he can get back on track sooner rather than later. But I expect us to win, and I would hopefully expect us to go in there and do it well. Sort of come away with a good win and bring that confidence back to Sunday at the Entertainment Centre and have another good win there.
How different would the feeling be in the group if they win Thursday night, coming back to play Sunday against the Breakers at the Entertainment Centre, or if they lose and they're 0-3 coming back home? How big of a difference does this first game make?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, people can say otherwise, but the pressure's going to mount until you start winning until you win a game. Yep. So, you come back, you're confident. Those little niggles don't hurt quite as much. You get back into your own bed for a couple of days, and then it's a 2:30 game on Sunday, so it's a better time, and then you're up and about. So you lose that game, then there's you're a bit more anxious to sort of make sure and come out and try and win that game on Sunday. So it's a huge thing from a mindset, and the psyche of a player. If you come back and you're 0-3, you're desperate to get that first win. So yeah, like I said, I hope that they and I think they will. I think they'll go down to Tassie and perform well and have a good win, and then come back and win another one on Sunday.
Was the crowd a little bit disappointing last Sunday? 4,800 there. Was the early time slot? I can't ever remember a game being played as early as 12:30 on a Sunday afternoon. Did that have an impact, or what do you think was behind the low numbers? And should we expect more people there on this Sunday?
I think it was an incredibly early time, and it's not one that we're accustomed to. I think in talking to people within the club before the game, they were expecting 6.5. So to only get 4.8 would have been really disappointing. I mean, we were there at the club organised for me to get a bunch of past players to present singlets to the current players. So we were there at 11:15. It was it was just
that's too early. Is that too early for a wine?
Well, it's funny you say that because they took us into the VIP room afterwards. So we were in there by about 11:30, and Mike McVeigh and I I think we said, let's just pretend it's a night game so we can have a glass of red before the game. But, so it was, everything was early, and it was strange. But and whether that impacted upon the crowd, which I'm sure it did. Let's hope that we can sort of get a decent crowd there on Sunday at a more traditional time, if you like, and make sure we see a good win.
How important is it to not take the breakers lightly? I know CJ would never do that, but maybe subconsciously, if you know a team is not at full strength and are struggling a little bit, how important is it to just not let that sneak into your mentality that you might be playing a team that you're expected to beat?
It's hugely important. I mean, it does happen. It can happen regardless of what the coach says or your own mentality. If anyone that watched them play the other night would go, well, they're terrible. They're going to struggle all year. Well, that's not going to be the case. I mean, there's still some very, very talented basketballers out there on the floor that can turn things around pretty quickly, and we've seen that against them last year. Finn Delaney is a class player, and they've got some guys that can really play. So, the good thing is, that doesn't become a focus till till the boys get home. At some stage on Friday, they won't even be thinking about the breakers yet. So that gives them a couple of days, and CJ and Jamie a couple of days to really get that mindset right, and then come out and make sure we got the right focus and do what we need to do against the breakers.
Now, looking forward to it. So we've got Thursday night in Hobart against the Jack Jumpers. Now, like I said, I spoke to Jack McVeigh earlier, Scotty, and he wanted me to remind you and to let you know that he still very proudly got your 36er singlet, and he doesn't mind he doesn't mind putting it on when he's around the house still from time to time.
Oh, well, that's a bit disappointing. He was rocking it out in the supermarkets last year when he was in Adelaide. So just doing it at home now. I guess a throwback 36er singlet is not going to be all that exciting to people in Tasmania, is it? So no, he's a good lad. It's a little bit disappointing that he's not still here, but he's moved on, and he now becomes the enemy Thursday night, and he's a really important part of their puzzle. We've got to make sure that we do a really good job on him and limit his opportunities.
Yeah, and don't let his energy become infectious, because we know what that can do. So we look forward to that game on Thursday night. We look forward to everyone listening turning up to the Entertainment Centre on Sunday to watch the 36ers play the Breakers. Thank you for everyone who made this show possible. Thanks to Sports Card World for our Ask the Coach segment. Thank you to Australian Motors Mitsubishi for our Player of the Week award. Thank you to Premium Wine Tours for our Player of the Year award. And thank you to All Star Photos for their ongoing support. I'm Chris Pike. I'll wrap things up on Sixers Fix and leave you with the ever so wise words of the one and only Scott Ninnis.
I'm not sure they're that wise, mate. Like last week, I said we were going to go 2-0. We went 0-2. I've now said we're going to win these next 2 games and be 2-2. So if we come back here and we're 0-4, mate, we might have to wrap up the podcast to get someone else to give expert commentary. So, no, looking forward to these games. As we've mentioned, it's a quick turnaround, which is great. It's exactly what you want as a player after you've had a loss. So, hoping for big things this weekend and 2 wins for the 36ers.